The Anishnaabeg of Nipissing had long been beleaguered and harassed by local Wiindigos. As soon as they heard about the new champion of the nation, they sent a courier to Weneboozhoo to invite him to their part of the country to drive their oppressors out and put them to flight or club them to a pulp. As the couriers described the atrocities committed by the Wiindigos, Weneboozhoo couldn't hold back his tears or contain his outrage. He whimpered and gasped to catch his breath during the recitation, unable to bear the thought of struggling, screaming old women trying to fight off the Wiindigos or of shrieking children being torn asunder by the monsters. Everyone else, his wife, his children, his grandmother, his friends, was cast into the background and forgotten. Long before the entire story was told, Weneboozhoo was on his feet brandishing a tomahawk and shrieking war cries. Weneboozhoo was ready. Days later, Weneboozhoo was at the foot of the Mattawa Hills, the dwelling place of the Wiindigos, where he had been led as he had requested. When the Nipissing Anishnaabeg saw Weneboozhoo, they were dismayed, for they had been expecting a champion, a large and brawny man. Instead, they looked on this man of average height and slightness of build, who presented himself as a champion, a man who was supposed to inspire hope and confidence in his friends and dread and respect in the enemy. They felt sorry for this man, for he could not begin to hold his own against the Wiindigos. He did not stand a chance, yet they admired his spirit. On the shores of Lake Nipissing, the Anishnaabeg waited. At the foothills of the Mattawa Highlands, Weneboozhoo bellowed a taunting challenge.
Ahow! You child killers, you abusers of old men and old women! Come down and lick my moccasins, or shall I have to come up to you?
Before Weneboozhoo could add another word, about 40 Wiindigo, according to witnesses, came thundering down the hillside, screaming and brandishing war clubs. They shrieked,
"Murder! Meat! Blood! Quit complaining, at least it's a meal!"
Even one Wiindigo was more than enough for one man, no less 40. Weneboozhoo took one look, heard the ear-piercing war cries, and dropped his war club. Then he turned and bolted. The Anishnaabeg spectators watched their hero run, as they expected he would. Their slight hopes dashed. They were downcast as downcast could be. As fast as Weneboozhoo was, he could not outrun the enemy who closed in on him. Weneboozhoo didn't have to glance backwards to know that the Wiindigo were drawing steadily nearer. He could hear the pounding steps and their shrieks. Weneboozhoo pushed his legs to the limits of their speed, but he couldn't pull away from the Wiindigo. There was nothing he could do except cry and pray. Teardrops and sweat washed over him. Bleary-eyed, the champion ran blindly straight into Lake Nipissing. As Weneboozhoo ran headlong into the water, a miracle took place. Flat stones rose to the surface in front of him the way he was to go. Without breaking stride, Weneboozhoo leapt from one stone to the next, but the Wiindigo followed right behind, matching Weneboozhoo step for step, vaulting forward on the same stepping stones. When Weneboozhoo and the Wiindigos were well out onto the lake, another miracle took place. The stones behind Weneboozhoo sank, pitching the Wiindigo into the water. The Wiindigos thrashed the water while trying to stay afloat. They screamed in terror as they sank out of sight one by one, never to be seen again. Only bubbles broke the surface where they vanished. Weneboozhoo ran on, unaware of the miraculous tragedy behind him. He cried and he prayed to the Manitous of the Wiindigos to spare him for his family's sake, promising never to take the name of the Wiindigos in vain again. On the opposite shore, Weneboozhoo staggered and then collapsed steps from the water's edge. He covered his head and he closed his eyes in tense expectation. But for all his waiting, no blows came, no hands tore at him. He listened but heard no footsteps or outcries, nothing except the break of waves and the screech of seagulls. Weneboozhoo opened one eye, then two, and saw no one. Meanwhile, on the opposite shore, the Anishnaabeg, who had seen everything from the beginning and witnessed the drowning of the Wiindigos, were inspired by the turn of the events. They cheered when the Wiindigos were engulfed, observing in admiration that only Weneboozhoo could think of such a strategy. Only Weneboozhoo could do such a thing. And that's it. That's the end. That's the end of the story of when Weneboozhoo came and fought the Wiindigo here in Nipissing. Think about how Weneboozhoo acted and how he reacted, and then also how other people reacted to what he was doing. There's a lot of teachings in these stories, and it's time that we start sharing these. All right. Thank you for listening. Bamapi. Kawabamin mina.